Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video I want to do a bit of an upgrade for my Titan jointer. Check out the video. I had this jointer slash thicknesser because it also does come with that option for a few years now. Recently I've got few projects that require me to sort out some rough lumber, and I have to say I had massive problems of getting the fence square to the tables. So I thought to myself, it's time to upgrade the fence. First of all, we need to take it off. Fortunately enough, it's not a very difficult task. There's only a few bolts that are holding the whole fence. Hence, maybe because of that, the whole fence is not very rigid, is not very strong, and it just does wobble and it does bend under pressure. I'm also removing the power cable holder. Thanks to that, I'm going to get 4 more threaded holes that I will be able to use to mount my fence. That will give it a far better stability. Now I'm going to remove the handle that locks the table in place. For the whole project I will be using a melamine board, 18mm in thickness, and now I'm just cutting the first piece on my miter saw. To make sure the piece fits correctly, I'm heading over to my bandsaw. As you can see, I'm cutting out a notch so it fits around all the sticking parts of the machine. But obviously if you don't have a bandsaw, you can just use a normal jigsaw. Now I'm just pre-drilling some holes so we can attach this with bolts to the body of the machine. And now I'm using my miter saw to cut out the rest of the pieces for this project. Okay, so let's explain what we've got here. On the table of the planer, I have placed a board, same that I'm using to do the whole contraption here. Okay, so basically underneath this board, that's the level of both of the tables. Obviously I made sure that both of the sides of the table are level. Okay, so that's very important to do that. Now I have clamped this piece on top of the table of the planer. Then I've clamped this piece underneath the board that's on the table itself. That will give me the gap for the shelf that I'm going to be installing, like so, to make sure this is flush to the main table of the planer. Underneath all that, that's the piece I've bolted to the planer itself, and now I'm gonna pre-drill some holes in 2 sides, on this side, on the other side. These will be the supports of the top that will be located over here. Plus I'm gonna add another support right in the middle of this board, that there's a lot of resting place for the top shelf that will be flush to the table of the planer. With the supports in place, I have cut out another piece that will go on top of them, and now I'm just going to secure this with some screws. Now as you can see, I'm using my table saw to cut out the right size fence I'm going to be using for this planer. Now I'm installing a top support. It's a little bit wider than the base that we've done so far. It will allow us to give more stability to the whole fence. Okay, so that's our base that's attached to the machine, solid, there's no movement in it at all. It's straight to the tables, so that's fine. This will be our fence that's going to be attached just over here. Now the original fence had the ability to tilt basically, but I never used that option and I basically don't need it, so that will be at 90 degrees to the table and that's all. However, as I mentioned before, I want this fence to extend a bit to the inside of the planer so I can utilize more of the blade itself. Hence, I've got this piece that will go on top and it will slide on the base with the fence like so. To make sure this will stay straight, I'm going to install this piece of plywood that I've cut to the right size. We're going to use my router to route out a channel onto which this will fit in. So that will hold our base in place and it will not shift side to side. And as we establish the depth of our fence, we're going to use some star knobs over here. We're going to make a channel here and we're just going to screw the fence to the base that we already made. Simple solution, but it should work absolutely fine. As we are still with my router, I'm going to cut a small chamfer in the front of the fence that will allow any dust particles not to be in the way when you actually are pushing your workpiece through the planer. So that will prevent any dust buildup at the base of the fence itself. Now I'm just using the jigsaw to cut out the slots into which the bolts will go. And as you can see, I made an absolute mess out of it with my jigsaw. Probably I should have used a router for that. Now I'll be using these type of bolt. I'm basically going to use my clamp to force them inside of the melamine board so they will not move on me. Now it's time to install the plywood guide that will ensure our fence, when we're going to be moving it, it will not slide side to side. Just make sure everything's nice and square. Now it's time to think how to attach the fence to this sliding base that we already made. So I've cut out a piece of melamine board. Basically now I'm just pre-drilling some holes for the screws to go into. This will be screwed into the base from the top, and then from the side we'll be able to mount the fence to it. And now this will be the moment of truth, installing the fence itself to the sliding carriage. If your stock was nice and straight and you've done everything correctly, the fence should fit on perfectly and be at 90 degrees to the jointer top. And now if we installed everything correctly, we should have nice and straight fence. Perfect. Absolutely spot on. And that's actually with a first try. I'm quite impressed with that. Absolutely perfect. I'm super happy with the results. To be fair, I wasn't expecting this to come out 100% square at first try, but it just shows if you've got nice and straight stock. As I've got the laminate boards, you know, they're not going to move, they're always going to be straight in most cases anyway. And it's a really simple design, but I hope it's going to serve me a lot better than the fence I had so far. So let's run a couple of test pieces to see how it performs. Okay, let's try to sort out this board. I hope you can see that, how uneven it is. And we'll sort out one edge as well. As you can see, that's uneven. Right, let's get to it. So that's the face and that's the edge where you jointed. Absolutely perfect. Great results. Spot on. Well, I have to say I'm really pleased with how this turned out, and I really like that the fence is a lot longer. I've got more support now as I'm trying to join my boards, and of course the option of pushing the whole fence forward gives me finally the ability to use the whole blade rather than just focusing on that small area there. So that's how it looks at the back. You've got the two knobs over here that allow you to move the whole fence. With the middle piece of the plywood inside, you make sure that the fence is going straight in a straight line. It's not skewing left to right. So that's a spot on solution here as well. And as I say, using the bolts from the cable holder, absolutely perfect for this scenario because it gives you that stability for this project. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video and it inspired you to maybe do something similar in your case as well, if you've got this particular jointer. Or actually, these types of jointers are quite similar in each other from different brands like Airbauer, Shepherd and all that. So yeah, if you've got the same problem like I had with the fence, this could be a solution for you. If you enjoyed today's video, drop me that like button down below. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and pressing that bell notification icon as well. Change it to all so you won't miss any of my future projects. But for now guys, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Take care.